from the Fast Lane, your weekly NASCAR handicapping show here on WagerTalk TV. We are live as we are every Wednesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And then, of course, we're archived all week long on YouTube on WagerTalk TV. So if you can't join us live on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, no worries. You have several days still to get in on the racing action and handicap before this weekend's event. And it is a Saturday night event. It's my home track. We were at Rocky's home track last week at Darlington. He actually could have gone in person. I'm a little bit jealous there. And, Rocky, it made me look up last night the ticket situation here in Richmond. But it's as I suspected, no fans allowed at any of the events. And I'm really bummed out, guys. The trucks are back on Thursday for the first time since 2005 at Richmond. And I was at a truck race. I've been to several truck races, and I swear to you, I've been there since 2005, but I guess not. I was probably at the 05 race. If not, it was the 04 race, because I know I went to a couple truck races back in the day. I always liked the truck races because I could get in, get out with no traffic. It's half the length. It's good racing. I highly recommend it to anybody who can catch a truck race. It's a great starter race, by the way, for someone that's not a NASCAR fan, because they don't know the drivers anyway, and it's half the distance, half the time. But, guys, I went to the last couple years at Richmond for the Cup race, and the traffic and parking was the equivalent of the NASCAR Xfinity race like 10 years ago. That's how things have fallen off in NASCAR, at least at Richmond, with the fan attendance. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they can recover from this somewhat semi-death blow now with no fans. But we'll get to the NASCAR Cup race. By the way, it's a doubleheader for the Xfinity Friday and Saturday, so it's a quadruple header at Richmond, and I can't go. That's just the world we live in right now. They're teasing me, Andy Lang. They're teasing me, to say the least. But how's your week been overall, Andy?
Not bad. Horrible week of betting. NASCAR 0-2 on paid plays, and then I got that late information on Blaney, and I couldn't get it out to everybody in time. So you guys got it.
Yeah.
You guys got the information, and hopefully everyone else did it and got it on their own, but it doesn't go on my record. But yeah, Blaney had really, really tough issues before the race. So it was 0-2. It happens. We'd been on a nice little streak. Just unlucky. I had Brad over Kyle and cut the tire and had damage. I mean, it's a testament to Brad and his crews how good he is. That I can't even believe he got back on the lead lap. And then all of a sudden he's battling for a top 10. I lost the bet, but I was like, this guy is just absolutely incredible. So, and then I'm going to go out on a limb and say we might talk a little bit of Truex and Chase Elliott a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, and it depends, and probably in that order. I went back and watched it about 10 times, Andy, and I was trying to debate which order I was going to bring the two up for the Stenhouse Award. But yeah, Kevin Harvick, of course, wins the race, guys, with at best a third-place car. Chase Elliott and Truex were definitely the dominant cars, and they, of course, took each other out late. Truex clipped him, he said. And it was interesting. After the interview, he said, I thought I was clear, or he should have given it to me. And then they went to the studio, the post-race, and Kyle Petty said, I've never heard that before, 10 laps to go or whatever. And that was my take as well, Rocky, that and I like, by the way, full disclaimer, Truex is maybe my favorite guy. Other than Clint Moyer, Truex is probably my favorite guy on the circuit. And I like Chase Elliott also. I like them both. I have no problem with either one of them. But, Rocky, we keep talking about it week after week. Harvick finds a way to get more from less cars. He did it again. And then Andy brings up a great point. Keselowski was destined to finish in the 30s after wrecking early in the race, cutting a tire, and he bumps a guy, and that cuts the tire. Finishes 11th without leading a lap. Just incredible. And he probably is okay to advance. Even with the 30th, he'd probably be okay. But keep in mind, Austin Dillon finished second. So that's almost like a win. That's almost like a win, guys, because that's going to bump somebody out that probably would have made the top 12, because Dillon most likely wasn't going to. Now he's maybe going to be able to point his way in. But Rocky, crazy finish there. Keselowski, though, probably gets the move of the race award, finishing 11th, even more than Harvick, who won the race. And it just shows, once again, picking the fastest cars doesn't always lead to the winner. And Truex wins both stages, right? I know he won stage 2. He won stage 1 as well, I believe. And DraftKings, of course, changed that prop because of ours truly, Andy Lang. And Truex wins the first 2 stages, would have won the race, but finishes 22nd. So the 7-1 does not pay off, because DraftKings added that little disclaimer that they have to win all the stages and the race now. Rocky, what was your takeaway overall about Darlington? How's your week been?
Well, I actually passed in Darlington this week. I didn't like anything after handicapping all the the race matchups. My free play did lose with Keselowski, minus 115 over Kyle Busch. Like Andy said, he got in a little accident there early, cut his tire, had a little damage. But surprisingly, he did come back and finished 11th, which is, just great for his team and to show how good that team is. Harvick got the win. He automatically advanced to the next round with that, like he wouldn't be in the next round anyway. But Austin Dillon, like you said, a surprising strong run, finishing second. Almost caught Harvick there at the end. He was right on him. And he also had to go to the rear of the field. So for him to come all the way back, all the way through everybody and finish second was, great job by him. Another lap or two, he may have taken home the checker flag.
Yep.
Like you said, Truex Jr. won both stage 1 and stage 2. But as we talked about last week, the books made a change with what we've been able to bet on to win both stages. And now you got to add in the overall race. So that wouldn't have cashed. It would have cashed last week or the week before, with that format, but we couldn't get it. Eric Jones was my sleeper for this race. He finished 4th, a solid run. He started 30th. Said on the show last week, I felt like he would jump in the top 20 pretty quick, and he did. Truex and Chase Elliott got together late, battling for the lead. I had Hamlin to win here on the show. He finished 13th. I had Harvick finish 2nd. He won the race. I had Keselowski to finish 3rd. He finished 11th. Not a great job there. Out of the playoff drivers, the 4 worst finishes was Elliott at 20th, DiBenedetto 21st, Truex Jr. 22nd, and Ryan Blaney finished 24th.
Yeah, and Truex now goes to Richmond, guys, where he's actually the pre-race favorite. I've seen him run extremely well there over the years. He'd had that string of, what was it, like top 2s and top 3s, like 7 out of 8 races, and he would have had another one in this one. Yet he's in, not jeopardy, but he's in the middle of the pack right now. He's in 6th place, and he's only 16 points above the cutoff. In fact, speaking of Austin Dillon, Andy, he's now 8th overall in the playoff points, and he's only 10 points ahead of the 13th spot, though. So, I mean, this is wide open. But the guy we got to talk about, though, is Blaney. And, Andy, you told me and Rocky, about 15, 30 minutes before the race that, hey, look, he's going to the back. I had not seen that, and Rocky hadn't seen it yet either. Andy, just big picture, one of my biggest pet peeves of all of NASCAR, other than the matchups being different in every book, coming out late, moving, is that it's hard as hell to find out who's dropping to the back of the pack. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it really is.
The official starting sheet, you go to DraftKings anywhere, NASCAR, they always keep the actual starting spot, even though he's technically starting 40th. And you don't even know after the race unless you read the fine print at the bottom. But it's huge information for the matchups because it's basically given up, 20-some starting spots on his opponent. And by the way, Andy, Blaney is now dead last, 16th in the playoff standings, and he is a good 17 points behind the 12th spot. So Blaney's one of the fastest guys on the circuit, but as of now, he might not make the round of 12. And just what are your thoughts overall on Blaney?
I don't think he's going to. He peaked too early. He had that run right there in the middle of the season where, we loved betting on him. I'm not betting on Ryan Blaney anymore. And that mess up. I mean, he's obviously got to be in the Stenhouse Award conversation, but
yeah.
That mess up is unacceptable. You can't have your car that. You can't have your car fail inspection that bad in the first round of the playoffs where you get your crew chief suspended.
Yeah.
He suspended his crew chief a half hour before the race. Like, those are mistakes that there's no reason that should ever happen in a race, but especially the first round of the playoffs. So that just shows that the karma's bad on that team. I think karma's a real thing, momentum. I believe in all that. And when you're not clicking, that's what happens. And they're not clicking, and it's go time, baby. And he ain't going. So yeah, he's fade material for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, and Rocky, as Andy said, for the crew chief to get suspended in a first of a playoff race, I mean, they basically think it's blatant when that happens. And for the guy that had the fastest green lap speed like a month or two ago on some of these intermediate tracks, hard to imagine he'd have to resort to that or that it was a pure accident. Rocky, one guy I want to throw out to you is Eric Jones. We touched upon the fact that the non-playoff guys are kind of stayaways, but we all said that Jones dominates at Darlington compared to other tracks. He's as good as anybody, average finishes and whatnot. He had the 6th best driver rating at this race on Sunday. And overall, he finished fourth despite starting 30th. So, Rocky, any takeaways, big picture here from Darlington? Eric Jones is definitely a guy that jumped out to me. And I'll mention Jimmy Johnson, too. He was running, second at the end of stage 1, I believe. Definitely fell off, though. He finished 18th overall. But Johnson also showed he could run. He was second and fifth after stage 2. So very misleading 18th place finish. And Jones and Johnson, Rocky, were the two guys that missed the cut. They would have actually both been in had Dillon and Custer not stolen wins. So are you looking at those guys maybe a little differently than the other non-playoff guys, Rocky?
Well, what I took away from Darlington, like I said, Ryan Blaney had a bad start. He had a bad finish, finished 24th, which I think was the worst among all the playoff drivers. Blaney does not run good at Richmond, so he's in a lot of trouble right now, I think.
Good point.
His average finish at Richmond is 25.5 in 8 races there. He's never had a top 10. So he's probably in trouble, and he's actually a lot better than some of those other drivers that's going to make it to the round of 12. You're talking about Austin Dillon. And Dillon's run good at times this year, but just thinking, Blaney should be in ahead of him, but it's not. I don't think it's going to work out like that. But Blaney's probably going to miss the round of 12, is my opinion.
Yeah, and Austin Dillon, I've seen him run well at times at Richmond. We'll, of course, get to Richmond here in a few minutes. But, yeah, it's not a good track for Blaney, Rocky. You're definitely right about that. He's going to basically have to win the third race to get in, it looks like, to the round of 12. Hey, Andy, obviously Truex and Chase Elliott were on my list for the award, but I'll tell you right now, after what you mentioned, Blaney, I'm giving my initial here pre-segment vote to Ryan Blaney, actually, for the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. unforced error, because Elliott and Truex were going for the win. I blame Truex more for that incident, but they're still racing for the win. I think it was an unforced error on Truex's part. I don't think it was Elliott's fault. But yeah, Blaney, that's the definition of an unforced error. Basically, they made the decision to not have that car pass inspection be set up correctly. So, what are your thoughts, Andy? What are some of your nominees for the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. unforced error of the award for Darlington?
I'll let Rocky go because I got a couple sleepers.
Okay, that sounds good. So, Rocky, what's your takeaway on those three I mentioned? Those are probably prime suspects. Anything else jump out to you, or your?
Definitely Ryan Blaney, having to go to the rear of the field due to improperly mounted ballast. That's my top one there. Also just want to mention again, Austin Dillon started from the back of the field, managed to come all the way through the field, finished second. He had unapproved adjustments to his car prior to the race, which proved to work out for him, actually. But Truex Jr. and Elliott reckon would be another one. I know you mentioned that earlier as well. I think there was like 14 laps left, and they were battling for the lead. Truex tried to pass him, was not clear, got up into him. Truex cut a tire. Elliott stayed out, but he went backwards in a hurry. So, I'm probably leaning towards Blaney as my pick as well.
Yeah, coming in, I wasn't, but that's my number one pick as well, Andy. So you're going to have to wow us with one of your sleepers, I think, for you to get a 2-1 edge on the votes here.
Okay. I have a couple surprise nominees. The first one that I have is the outfits that the announcers were wearing. I took a picture of it. They all decided to go with white shirts and red ties. There you go, guys.
And this is for the throwback race, don't forget. It's like about as plain vanilla as you could possibly have been.
Do you not have a wardrobe, guys? Do you not have a girl or a guy that's there saying, hey, you're all wearing the same thing. You guys look like morons.
We've even thought about switching shirts, Andy, when we were all in blue or red that one time. We don't do it, but we've talked about it.
Yeah, he took his shirt off.
I run to the closet and grabbed a different shirt.
And we have almost as many viewers as NBC does, but not quite as many.
Yeah. I'm also going to nominate myself.
I've been waiting for that one.
I have an incredible track record at WagerTalk, okay? The very first time I do something at WagerTalk is a disaster, okay? The very first NASCAR race I ever did, I went 0-3. The very first PGA event I handicapped, I went 0-2. The very first NBA props I put up went 0-2. And I did my very first free video last week, which was Lewis Hamilton to win. And the handicapping was spot on. He got out to the lead. And then he comes into the pits too early and gets a stop and go 10-second penalty when he was winning the race by 7 seconds. I don't know why when I do the first thing at WagerTalk, it blows up in just in amazing fashion, but it does. So I nominate myself, and I also nominate Rocky.
Oh, I love it.
I nominate Rocky. I would like to read to everybody.
Oh, boy.
I would like to read to everybody the text that I sent to Steve and Rocky. It says, Blaney might be in trouble for this race. Failed inspection, a ballast issue, and his car is out of whack. Crew chief suspended, and he got sent to the rear. Okay. I would like to read Rocky's tweet.
Oh, no.
Blaney might be in trouble for this race. Failed inspection, a ballast issue, and his car is out of whack. Crew chief suspended, and he got sent to the rear. You copy and pasted my text message and sent it out on Twitter before I did.
I will say this.
I did.
Yeah,
I did give you credit for it, though.
Time was of the essence. In fact, when we came on, I was going to give Rocky credit. Here's what's so funny. I was going to say I gave Rocky credit for actually getting that tweet out because we weren't able to let the clients and the viewers know.
I log onto Twitter to send out my great information, and Rocky copy and pasted and beat me to it.
Did I thank you for that, Andy, or did I give you credit or no? I'm just
You attached me to it, and you did say thank you, but the copy and paste was just classic. I laughed so freaking hard.
I was in Lowe's actually. Whenever you sent me that, and I'm like,
he was
I can't.
He was getting ready to film the flyover. He was busy.
Filming the flyover, all that stuff.
Well, it's fitting that you were in Lowe's because Rocky, that was low.
Boy,
I'm sorry.
As much as I'd love to give both of you the award, those just aren't as good as Blaney, unfortunately. Although Rocky's defense, Andy, his new PR manager, his new social media manager is Biden's campaign manager. So
Yeah, right.
It happened because of that. No, hey, look, what was Hamilton? Wasn't he like minus 250 or something? Or he might have been more by the time.
He was minus 200 when I put out the video, and I said if he gets on the pole, he's going to blow by everybody. And he got on the pole, and he blew by everybody. And it was a walk in the park, an absolute walk in the park. And I all my Formula One friends have all confirmed I have never seen that penalty. I have never ever seen it. I've never seen it. They threw a caution, and he comes into the pits, and they were like, well, right as he was pulling in, we put an X on the board on the other side of the track that he should have seen. So he came in too early. It was not a safety issue. Yeah, they took the race away from him. So yeah, my very
one you forgot to mention, Andy, was the first time you mentioned the stage 1, stage 2 sweep prop. It missed out.
Oh yes.
And then I think it cashed like another 5 in a row, and it cashed 5 out of 6. So, that's the first time it came to mind for me. How many people probably never played it again after week 1 and missed like 4 straight winning weeks?
Yeah. So by the way, this is a great time to mention. I just put up my 2020 NFL player props.
There we go. I was going to ask you what will be the first
today.
There we go. Let me know when you're doing some Australian League football or rugby or something or cricket. But the thing is, you got to really like the sport and analyze it like you do. Otherwise, it won't work. So.
Oh God!
All right, so everyone, the fate of the week. Buy it. At Wager, it's quite simple right now. Best bets at WagerTalk.com for Andy Lang.
Yeah. Are we giving it to Blaney?
I think Rocky and I both voted for Blaney. So.
Yeah, it's got to be Blaney. First week of the playoffs. Yeah, pretty bad. All right, I'm going to write it down.
I feel like he's won it before. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He was the bungee cord. Remember his gear shift broke and they gave him the bungee cord that he couldn't
bungee man. So we have a 2-time winner here. We got 2-time winner here with Ryan Blaney. So I'm going to type that up here so we have it for the archive. 2-time winner Ryan Blaney.
Yeah,
so,
and
he's going to be a front runner for the final season, the top 2 or 3 podium.
And I do feel like we need to petition WagerTalk to let us do a special one-off episode right after the season is ending where we award the winner of the year. I feel like that show has to happen.
We'll do a championship episode, and it'll be, of course, mainly for our championship award, which is the Ricky Stenhouse. And just, so many levels he deserves it here because we're going to look back, and this has basically cost him a chance to advance, and he can win any given race, which means he could have advanced to 8th. He could advance to the champion. He was a guy we mentioned as a sleeper. I didn't like him to win the championship because he's not good at Phoenix, but I thought he could be in the Final Four. It wouldn't have shocked me, and it ain't going to happen. It looks like, boys. And like Rocky, like you said, he's an uphill battle because Richmond's not a good track for him. And I should have this in front of me. What's the third track? It's Bristol or Martinsville, correct? I think
Bristol.
Bristol. Blaney is good at Bristol, though, isn't he? I think he's
not great. I think he ran good there last time. But is that the track he got spun out?
I mean, either Martinsville or Bristol. I'm thinking he had something happen at one of those short tracks. And by the way, viewers, we're going to get into Richmond. When you look at short tracks, being a Virginia guy, obviously I look at Bristol, Martinsville, and Richmond very closely. And Richmond is not like Martinsville or Bristol. Those are both half-mile. Richmond's is three-quarter. But Richmond race is more like a 1.5 mile speedway. Martinsville's very flat. Bristol's as banked as Daytona. So there really isn't a takeaway track that I use for Richmond. I basically use Richmond. In fact, I'll throw it to you, Rocky. I'm going to look up his Bristol stats while we're doing this. But, Rocky, how do you handicap Richmond? I mean, are there any other tracks you look at? The 1 mile tracks like New Hampshire's flat, Phoenix, I don't use those. I don't use Martinsville. Bristol, I don't think races like Richmond. I almost say Darlington races closer to Richmond maybe than any other track. It's a short 1.03 mile. I mean, what are you looking at for Richmond? For me, I really look at past history heavy here, and I have a feel for guys that run well here as well.
Yeah, definitely track history, past history, track career-wise, and also you have to factor in how they've done recently on the track, and also similar track type, which you said like Darlington. Darlington will be closer probably than the two smaller tracks, Bristol and Martinsville, whatever. And that's what I do. And the momentum, of course, we got to throw that in there. Who's hot, who's not, and go from there.
By the way, I just looked in the last 7 races at Bristol. Ryan Blaney, 26th average finish, 1 top 5 in 7 races. 4 top 10, so he's been in the hunt, but yeah, not looking good for Ryan Blaney, and he is definitely a guy, Andy Lang, that's not on my radar at Richmond. Blaney, once again, has not run well here, and he's 27th, 0 top 10s in his last 6 starts at Richmond. I would say the season is over for Ryan Blaney.
I mean, the obvious one is Truex, but I said this last week, and I think it still stands. I don't know what it is with that guy. There is always something that keeps him from winning the race. They showed the stat about how many top 3 finishes he's had with no wins. It's always something this year with him. And there he is, just a complete cowboy unnecessary move on Chase Elliott. And then, of course, after the race, he says, I guess there wasn't enough room for both of us. Oh, you think so? Good call, Martin. I'll save Harvick for Rocky to talk about.
I don't even know what's on Rocky's hat today. It looks like a South Carolina Gamecock or LA. Is it a
Gamecock?
Wow. Yeah. I wasn't sure I was right on that. Nice.
I don't think they have the head-to-heads out yet, so
I did see a couple at the U.S. books, so Andy. So
okay. Honestly, I was kind of toggling around between how to handicap this race. I'm going to look at the 2 Dover races and New Hampshire. And if you look at those, they really match up with the history at Richmond. You've got Truex, Kyle Busch, and Keselowski all run good there. Harvick has run good. I am going to be on Joey Logano this week. He runs good. I think he has the look of a driver that could peak now. He was great before everything got canceled. And then he really stumbled out of the blocks. He was a good bet against. He was great last week. That finish of his was no fluke. That was a legit car. Some great driving. Worked his way through the field. A really good top 5 finish. And when you're going through the playoffs, you want to look at guys who have shown you that they can be elite. And then do you see signs? Obviously, with Hamlin and Harvick, we can see that. But Logano's a guy I'm going to keep my eye on. He might be a nice little play on futures. He's got wins, so he's got enough points to advance. That's a guy that could really, really make some noise. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, Keselowski, his teammate, and, of course, Harvick always getting more out of less. Joey Logano won a championship a couple years ago, going in as the 4th car, lucky to even be at Miami, and he ends up winning that. He was the 4th favorite going into that race, and he won the championship. So we've seen him do it. And he's good at Richmond. In fact, if you look at the last 6, keep in mind, we did not have the April race. It was canceled, not made up, just canceled. So they have not raced this year at Richmond. So we don't have a lot to go on. By the way, Andy, I love where you're going with Dover. I'm surprised by New Hampshire because it's flat, but it is a mile. Dover's a 1 mile banked. That might be the closest thing to Richmond, other than being concrete, of course. And we'll get to the sleepers in a moment. I'm going to use Clint Moyer, by the way. Hopefully I'm not stealing anyone's thunder. But what's interesting about Moyer, Rocky, is that he's actually got the best average finish at Bristol the last 7. So maybe Bristol correlates a little better to Richmond than I realized. Because I've gone for years, for decades to Richmond. I've seen Moyer run well a lot of times. Truex, Kyle Busch runs well here. Rocky, give me another pick. And if Kyle isn't one of you, give me your thoughts on Busch as well, because he definitely showed up at Darlington more than we expected. And he's really good at Richmond as well, Rocky.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Andy with Logano. I have him top 5, just so viewers know. But my first guy here today is Harvick. Harvick has 3 wins, 15 top 5s, 25 top 10s, and 38 races here in Richmond. Average finish is 9.8 at this track. He has 5 top 10 finishes his past 6 races here. Average finish 6.3. He is back being the hottest driver over the past 10 races overall, 4 wins, 8 top 10 finishes, and an average finish of 5.9.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was looking at the race here, I'm thinking this might be a week I'll leave Harvick off. And I've gone to 20-some races at Richmond. I've only missed a handful in the last 20 years, and I've seen all 3 of his wins over that span. And I still didn't feel like he was that dominant here. I think the reason is because there's other drivers that are really good. He doesn't just run away with this like on the intermediates. But yeah, I think he's got the 3rd best average finish the last 3 years. That's the 3rd best driver rating. What I wanted to throw to you with the Logano, Andy, as I was mentioning, I didn't finish mentioning, I got sidetracked with Boyer, but Logano, Truex has the best average finish the last 6 races, the last 3 years. Logano actually has the best driver rating, I believe, in those 6 races. So Logano has, Andy, been very good at Richmond.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than the results show. Who's somebody else you're looking at?
Well, I threw out the free play last week, Byron over Reddick, and it was the angle of taking a guy who's in the playoffs against a guy who's not, and Byron was good, and we won that one. So if we're looking at head-to-heads, if you out there are seeing any matchups at your books where you got a guy who's in the playoffs and he's matched up against somebody that is not in the playoffs, I'd take it. Even a guy like Byron, who I don't think they mentioned at all during the broadcast, but that was a nice head-to-head winner. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I keep my eye on Alex Bowman. He impressed me last week. He was good. That was one of my bets I lost. Kurt Busch kept going back and forth with Bowman, and Bowman ran good. And I did in my write-up the stats with Bowman. He runs better at the shorter tracks than he does the bigger tracks. And couple of top 10s at some of these shorter tracks. If you're looking for a sleeper, I don't think I would say he's going to win. I don't even know if I would say top 5, but top 7, top 8 as a guy that is off of everyone's radar. We've been fading him, but honest, he's run a lot better recently, and he impressed me last week. He got a little lucky with the pit strategy at the end, but he was fast all race. Didn't make any of those boneheaded mistakes. His pit crew was good. His strategy was fine, and he stayed out of trouble. And sure enough, he got rewarded with a good finish.
Yeah, Andy, I'm surprised because I've been off of Bowman. You guys faded him quicker than I did. That first Darlington race back in May when he finished 2nd, I liked it. He dominated California earlier in the year, and I didn't catch on to that soon enough. But I do not like him this week. He 8 starts here. He's never had a top 10. He's never finished better than 12th in 8 starts. So with no practice, no race there this year, I think that would definitely be going out on a limb a little bit. So I'm surprised to hear you say that, though. But he did run well at Darlington. But then again, he looked good at Darlington before, so that's why I didn't want to take too much away from that, this past Sunday. Did you see anything that makes you think he might be different at Richmond this time around?
I mean, his average finish, is 13th at the 2 Dover and the New Hampshire races. I mean, that's better than Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott and Eric Jones and Blaney. And I think those are guys. I don't think you're going to match up with Bowman over Kyle Busch or Chase Elliott, but Yeah, you could probably get it over Eric Jones or William Byron.
So speaking of William Hill has a -125 over the Benedetto right now.
There you go. And De Benedetto has finished one spot worse. They're both in the playoffs, so you've got motivation there. So yeah, those are the kind of matchups that I'm going to be looking at. And by the way, Winning Bets asked about, do we downgrade Kyle Busch and Boyer for the crew chiefs being suspended this week? I don't, because they have a whole week to prepare for it. It's situations like Blaney had, where his crew chief gets suspended right before the race, and now they're scrambling. So no, I do not downgrade the guys. So that's
good info to point out, though, because as I mentioned, Boyer and Kyle Busch have been as good as anybody at this track. My take on that was I actually like Kyle Busch now because of it, because they sure as hell haven't been running well with the regular setups and the crew chief. So that actually is a play on Kyle Busch for me, as silly as that sounds. By the way, De Benedetto, 10 starts at Richmond, no top 10s as well, 14th his best finish. So Bowman has been better than De Benedetto. Of course, De Benedetto now in the 21 car, which is a much better machine than he's ever had. And by the way, Andy, also you can get Byron -110 pick him against Jimmy Johnson in a head-to-head. Now, Johnson and Jones are the two guys I kind of have an asterisk next to as the non-playoff guys, right? Because when you said play against the non-playoff guys, I would say be wary if it's Jones or Johnson, though, because those are two guys that are racing like playoff drivers still.
Yeah.
So those are some I'm seeing there. I'll pull up some more matchups here as we go around. Rocky,
by the way, real quick, congratulations to Corey. He's nicknamed Alex Bowman the Showman.
It's a great nickname.
Return of the Showman.
You might need the Showman. There it is. I was trying to find it. It's a great nickname.
It's great. Too good.
He has been gaining momentum, but once again, Richmond, unlike any track they've been on this year, so we'll see if it carries over. Rocky, who's somebody else you're looking at Richmond? The 3/4 mile super speedway.
Definitely looking at Hamlin again. I mean, I know I mentioned Harvick and Hamlin pretty much every week, but these guys are real consistent. They're been really good right now. They made us a lot of money also. Hamlin has 3 wins, 13 top 5s, 17 top 10 finishes in 27 races here. Average finish of 9.2 at this track. Hamlin has 5 top 5 finishes in his past 6 races here. Average finish of 5.8, which is second best among all drivers. Hamlin's the second hottest driver to pass 10 races overall, with 2 wins, 7 top 10 finishes, and an average finish of 6.9. Just to mention Bowman, I don't like Bowman this week. I did not fade him last week. I just felt like he was going to run good for some reason. I was close to releasing Kurt Busch over Bowman, but then something took me off of it and ended up passing. Bowman, as we spoke, as I said earlier in the year, Bowman is Bowman. I don't think he's in a good car. I just don't think he's one of the better drivers out there. William Byron, I think, is better than Bowman. And
agreed.
And Byron, he could possibly be there for a while with Hendrick Motorsports. And I think Byron is actually going to get a few more wins before he's done with his racing career. Bowman, I'm just not sure if he'll ever win again. That's just my thoughts on that.
The guys at Bet America right now pick them. Bowman versus Byron is a matchup they have head-to-head. They got -115 each way, a little extra juice. So, Rocky, there's an actual matchup out there right now with those two pick them.
Yep. And I do like Kyle Busch as well. I know you mentioned him. I got him finishing 3rd this race. He hasn't ran good this year, and everybody knows that, and we feel like it's because of lack of practice. But Kyle Busch is really, really good here. He has 6 wins, 18 top 5 finishes, 22 top 10s, and 29 races here in Richmond. Average finish of 6.8 at this track, which is the best among all drivers. He has 2 wins, 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s the past 6 races here with an average finish of 6.2. So I'm looking for Kyle to make a little noise this week.
Yeah, a few when was it? It was last fall, actually. I was down in the pits, actually, for the last race at Richmond, because it was last fall. I actually had a pit pass for that race. And I did the ESPN Richmond hit as I did every Friday during the football season last year. And they asked me quickly for NASCAR. We didn't have a lot of time. So I said Gibbs 1, 2, 3 like that on the way out. And they finished 1, 2, 3. And Jones actually finished 6th or 4th. I think he was almost top 4 even. It was almost a quadruple sweep. But I was down in the pits, and Kyle Busch was leading late, and Truex was second. And their pits were literally at the extreme ends of pit road. That's the way it was set up. And we see Joe Gibbs, my friend and I, we see Joe Gibbs, and he's at Kyle Busch. And all of a sudden, Truex passes him with like 10 to go. So Gibbs starts walking all the way down. So we follow Gibbs, and we go all the way down to Truex's pit. And I'm like, if there's a caution, this could reset. We're going to have to walk all the way back down. Truex held on to win. Because I remember he won without even looking it up. But Gibbs swept. Hamlin must have been third in my recollection. It was either Hamlin or Jones, but they were top three. Gibbs swept. Gibbs is strong here, and I like Kyle Busch a lot. Not a lot, but I like Kyle Busch this week. And I'm telling you guys, the fact his pit crew chief is suspended, I think is a bonus because it's not been working. Something needs to shake up this team. He looked good at Darlington. And just a final note on Bowman. Bowman, of course, was really good at Darlington back in May. So the fact he ran well there this past week doesn't really change anything for me on him at Richmond. But, Andy, who's another driver? What's your thought on Gibbs overall? Hamlin, of course, a great pick as well. Hamlin, Busch, and Truex as strong as anybody at this track, and you got to figure they can share some notes as well now in the playoffs.
I mean, Truex, he's the best here. I think did he win both of these races last year? I think.
Corey Andy just said he swept.
Yeah. He can't close recently. Like that's a problem. Like it's just always I'd take him top three. I'm not betting him to win. And then someone said, Denny's a plus money against Truex. I'm not. Denny Hamlin is not an underdog, especially at this track. I'm not going to be near him. Jesse points out at some point Chase Elliott has to retaliate. He's not going to do it.
Not in the
when he's still in.
Race,
yeah,
right?
Not when he's still in the playoffs. If he gets eliminated. Look out. Look out. Gloves are off.
Yeah, excellent point by both of you. I mean, Jesse, at some point, maybe. Plus, Elliott's he's a young guy. He's respectful. He came up, through his father. He's one of the last guys, I think, that will retaliate on top of that. And Truex Jr. also is well-liked. Those are like had that been Logano or Kyle Busch or somebody, that people don't like. But, hey, before I forget, Corey, great point. I had this in my notes last night. I was logging the odds for the Xfinity race, and I did notice Kyle Busch is racing Friday night. Yet another reason why I like him in the Cup race Saturday. I doubt he's racing the second race on Saturday in Xfinity, but he will get some practice sessions. Different cars, obviously, but I don't think it's a bad thing that he's racing in that Xfinity race the night before at Richmond. I think Kyle Busch could win this week, and obviously not a shock, but the way he's run this year, it'd be a little bit of a shock.
Kyle Busch is an addict. Racing is his drug. Like him and Tony Stewart, man. Like
good analogy.
They can't help themselves. I actually, you remember when Stewart got in that really bad accident and his leg? Okay. Random story. I know the guy that knows the surgeon that fixed Tony Stewart's leg and said, "You do this again, I can't save your leg. Like your leg's just gone. So it's hanging on by a thread." Does he stop racing? Of course not. He's racing the dirt tracks in his sprint cars here in southern Indiana. He was doing it like 6 months later. I don't understand those guys.
No, you're exactly
There's
right.
something different in their blood.
And that's why Johnson's not the same. Johnson's out there running marathons and Ironmans and stuff and bicycling. He'd rather do that more than race, I think. And then Jeff Gordon was like that at one point, but when he was retired, you don't see that same hunger. He's in the booth. Earnhardt Jr. has it a little bit, but he's in the booth. Stewart, he owns Harvick's team. he owns dirt tracks. He owns teams out, and that's the difference between those guys. And Kyle Busch is the same way. They're both extremely talented, but they've got a hunger level like a Michael Jordan, basically, is the analogy I've always used. That's what makes them all-time greats is that they're talented, but that they've got that focus and motivation. And if there's, we keep saying this is one of Kyle Busch's best tracks, blah, blah, blah. We've said it Bristol and these other ones, but Richmond has consistently been as good, if not the best track for Kyle Busch. I've seen him run well there so many times in person. Rocky, who's someone else you're looking at for a top three, maybe a long shot? What else are you looking at?
I got some long shots here. I'll mention Kurt Busch at 40-1 is what I saw.
Oh, that's juicy. Woo!
Yeah, it is
good
juicy.
one.
I'm surprised by that, actually. I would not have thought he was that high.
I know, me either. He has 2 wins here, 7 top 5s, 15 top 10s, and 38 races here. Average finish 15.4. Decent, but Kurt Busch has been running pretty decent this year. So might be good to sprinkle a little on him. Also, Clint Moyer, I know you mentioned him. He was also 40-1, and I'm getting those from from what Johnny sent us from one of the books in Vegas.
It's usually the Westgate, I think. So that's a pretty consensus odds. Yeah, I'm seeing him 35 at a sharp offshore Kurt Busch, but yeah, 40-1 is pretty much where it is.
So Boyer has 2 wins here, 5 top 5, 16 top 10s, and 28 races here. Average finished 12.5 at this track, which is very good. Honorable mention for a long shot, Ryan Newman, 200-1 to win. He does have 1 win here, 8 top 5s, 20 top 10s, and 36 races. He does have a solid average finish here, 12.3, which is actually a little bit better than Boyer's. So, you know, these long shots, like we talked about, I think it was last week. I mean, most of the time they're not going to hit, but if you look for them maybe in a head-to-head matchup, and you may be able to find something that you can play on.
Yeah, I saw Newman win his race here. He's got 1 win in 36 starts. Andy, another guy I've seen win here as well is Matt Kenseth, 2 wins in 37 starts, led over 1,000 laps on this track. I know we've been on kind of the anti-Kenseth machine. However, Andy, you did mention him on those flat tracks like New Hampshire and Pocono. New Hampshire, you said correlates a little bit. I don't have much interest in him here, but do you have any interest in Kenseth this week more than normal?
No.
I'm with you. I don't either.
He's Matt Kenseth. The excitement level is a 1 on that one.
It's the inverse of Stewart's excitement level.
Yeah, right. Rocky, great point on Newman. He finished 6th and 9th last year. He's always been good here. I didn't realize he was that good last year. He's always been well here, though. It's a root and gouge type of track. He'll keep his car clean. He'll save his brakes. He won't wear his tires down. I guarantee he'll be running like 21st or 22nd for the first half of the race, and then all of a sudden he's like 11th. That's just how he operates on tracks like this. So,
yeah. By the way, Newman finished 5th and 9th. He only finished top 10 in 1 of the 4 stages, yet he finished 5th and 9th overall in those last 2 races. So that's a perfect example, Andy, of what you're talking about. Who else are you looking at? You got any other top 3s or long shots? Definitely. I mean, Boyer, by the way, Rocky, at William Hill, I see Busch at 40-1, Boyer at 50-1. So those odds are definitely out there.
What's Jimmy Johnson at?
Jimmy Johnson, William Hill's got some juicy odds on these guys, so we'll pull that up 50-1 as well. And then if you look at a sharp offshore, he's 33-1. So it tells you a little something there.
He wasn't holding back last week. I mean, he was up there mixing it up. I thought he would kind of stay away from it, but stay away from some of the action. But he had no problem getting in there. I know we talked about, like, will Jimmy Johnson win a race, but he certainly was trying last week. He was not shy about it, and this is a track that he can get out and lead some laps, and crazy stuff can happen at the end at Richmond. So even if you're in 5th place and you got to restart with 4 laps to go, you can easily win that. So anybody that has the ability to get up in the top 5 is worth a sprinkle at 50-1 for sure.
Yeah, it's funny, Andy. All the years I've gone to Richmond, this is when I always leave Johnson off, because back in his heyday, as you guys know, he was the Kevin Harvick on the intermediate speedways. He wasn't as strong on the short tracks like Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. So it'd always be the time I'd leave him off, because he was always overvalued at every track, and especially here. But yeah, 3 career wins here. I mean, that's second most with He's tied with Harvick for this amount of wins, and Kyle Busch is the only guy that's got more wins, I think, of the active drivers. And by the way, he has 6, I think. Mm-hmm. That's double what anybody else has. That's how good Kyle Busch has been here. But yeah, Johnson at 50-1. They raced 50 times here, Andy, just like you said. He's
going to win one.
Exactly. I think you're exactly right. That's how you have to look at it. There is value there. And as I said, also, one of the sharper offshores have him at 33-1. So 50-1 is pretty juicy. Rocky, any other thoughts? If not, give me a matchup here. And if you guys want me, I know some of the offshores don't have him yet, but I did find him in a couple of the U.S. books, some head-to-heads if you want me to throw any other guys out to you.
Yeah, I got a head-to-head matchup, and you actually mentioned it earlier, I think. William Byron -110 over Alex Bowman.
Yeah, head-to-head pick 'em.
So Byron, he has no wins here, no top 5s, no top 10s, but 3 top 20 finishes in his 4 races here. He has an average finish 17.3 at this track. Bowman, on the other hand, has no wins, no top 5s, no top 10s in his 8 races here. His average finish 25.6 at this track. Keep in mind that William Byron is the hottest driver in the series the past 3 races, an average finish of 3.3 with 1 win and 3 top 10 finishes. So looking at Byron over Bowman here this weekend.
Hottest driver the last 3 races. I like that, Rocky. I did not know that. And Andy, I think Rocky and I are ganging up on you with the Bowman. Although in your defense, you did say Byron was a play-on guy for you in the props.
Absolutely.
I know you don't necessarily disagree with that one. What are some head-to-head matchups you're looking at?
Rocky left something out of that. Byron is the hottest driver. Do you know who the second hottest driver is? Rocky. Alex Bowman. These are the 2 guys in the last 3 races.
With Jimmy Johnson and Chase Elliott, and they're getting Johnson at 50-1. You can say that's correlated, right? I mean, because Chase Elliott could very well won, and then Johnson's the other teammate. So I think that's very important. Yeah.
Alex so now, Bowman average finish 6 the last 3 races.
You're looking at average finish, right? I say when you say hottest the last 3.
Yeah.
And by the way, I misspoke earlier. Logano has the best average finish the last 6 races. Truex has the best driver rating the last 6. That's what I said it backwards earlier here at Richmond. Andy, any head-to-heads you want me to look up for you here? I've seen a few pop in some matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the head-to-heads on my books, but you already mentioned it. Byron over Matt DiBenedetto. I'd much rather play Byron over DiBenedetto, and Corey just beat me to it in the chat room. DiBenedetto's been bad. He just, I don't even, you know, a really good way that you can just not even look at stats, but you can just tell if a guy is good or bad is think of the last couple races and how many times did you see the guy on TV? We haven't seen Matt DiBenedetto because, you know, filming a guy in 19th position just isn't fun. So he's not been good. We talked about Byron being the hottest driver. DiBenedetto is awful. His last 3 races, his average finish is 16.7. He was good there for a while, but he sure has lost its luster. I can't believe he's actually in the playoffs. But Byron looked good last week. It's playoff time. I think Byron's in a better car, and I'll take Byron over DiBenedetto.
Yeah, I love the fact that we were double dipping on William Byron, who has no top 10s the last 2 years at Richmond. So we got some exposure there. But then again, it's not about him winning the race. It's about him just beating Bowman or DiBenedetto. And DiBenedetto has no top 10s in his 14 career starts. Bowman has none in his 12, as we talked about earlier. So these are all guys that are perpetually not top 10 guys at Richmond. And with Gibbs being at least 3 of the top 10 spots and Harvick up there as well, doesn't mean you don't run well. There's just certain guys that do very well here. Rocky, you hit my long shot with Boyer. I'm on board with you there. He's a guy I've seen win races here, run top 3 numerous times. Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, I think are the guys to beat otherwise. One guy we didn't talk about here yet, he's like the 5th favorite over all guys. I'm not big on Chase Elliott on this track. And after what happened last week, even more of a reason. He's a guy that finds trouble, you know, even though that wasn't really his fault and it was more Truex's, I think. So I'm not going to necessarily fade Chase Elliott in head-to-head because he could win any track, but I'm not looking to use him as a top 3 finish or anything this week. So just for the viewers out there, that's my 2 cents worth here on Chase Elliott. Andy, the last minute we have here, so any Formula One this week? Anything jump out to you there?
Yeah, just keep playing Lewis Hamilton. That was a unicorn. That was you're never gonna see that again. I actually thought the penalty was BS. I think sometimes in NASCAR and Formula One, they lose track of what the rules are in place for. They are in place to keep the drivers and the crews safe. And when you penalize a guy who puts nobody in danger, like why, if it was really that big of a deal, if you really thought that he was doing something dangerous, just find the team and take away points. Don't take away an entire race away from the guy. That was pointless. It was very ticky-tacky. Okay, you got to do something to him. But yes, I am playing Formula One. And yes, my 2020 NFL player props are up.
Breaking news. Fade alert.
Boo. Boo on, you know, I could use a little support in these tough times.
For those that are tuning in late, Andy brought that upon himself.
I did.
And by the way, his props are doing well, and his NFL props will do well also. Andy, by the way, I want to get you on the NBA show with the games dwindling down here. Are you still doing NBA props?
Yeah, long story. It's really tough to put them in the WagerTalk system. So I've just been testing out some theories of mine, and I'll be doing them for sure once NBA season starts up again. Now that I kind of have that figured out. But I'll be doing NFL shows. And actually, we are going to have an NFL show on Sunday mornings talking about player props.
Awesome.
I sent Johnny a list of
breaking news. Sure.
Yes. I sent Johnny a list of goofy names, and he actually liked one. So the show is going to be called Prop It Up. I think my favorite was I wanted to call the show Indecent Proposal. That didn't go over well.
We're going with Sunday morning Prop Tarts.
Prop Tarts, that's a good one. I had Popular Vote as a team name, but Johnny liked Prop It Up. So that's going to be NFL props. We'll talk football, but it's going to be focused on the individual player props, which I've done really, really well on the last few years. So.
And speaking of shows, are you going to have USC Live this Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Yep. We hit 3 events in a row. We've made a pick on a fight that got canceled because of COVID. It's like the Cal Ripken streak. Like, it'll never be topped. You'll never bet on 3 fights in a row that have been canceled. So we only had one bet with Alistair Overeem, and he knocked the guy into next week. So we're coming off a big 1-0 week. We will have those bets up, and yes, we will be doing Takedown Live for sure Saturday.
And we did remind the viewers to play 7-1 on the was it Logano swept? Yeah, he swept at Daytona. So I like to give that a little bit of credit to the show as well.
Thank
I know
you.
a few viewers in the live chat seriously did play that right before it became unplayable ever again because of life in the fast. Hey guys, great show. We'll be back on Wednesday as we are every week at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday afternoons for the live show here. Of course, didn't do any promos. We had so much to cover here today, but Andy's at WagerTalk.com, Andy Lang, Rocky Atkinson at SportsMemo.com, myself, Steve Merril, I'm at WagerTalk.com. So once again, go to WagerTalk for free plays, SportsMemo.com for free plays, and then when you're ready to make some serious money, make the dive, get the best bets. We have $9 Monday, $2 Tuesday. There's specials going all the time, subscription packages. It's a great way to save and make money at the same time. But once again, myself, Steve Merril, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com, and then, of course, Rocky Atkinson at SportsMemo.com. Hey, guys, great show as always. We'll be back next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for more Life in the Fast Lane right here on WagerTalk TV.